If players quit before spending, stop blaming the store first. Your starter pack might be fine, your price might be fine. The problem is this: your game may be asking for money before it has created a player who wants to buy. This is where developers fool themselves. They see weak conversion, so they move the offer earlier. They add more gems, they make the discount louder. But the discount before desire is just noise. Today, we will break down how Candy Crush, Clash Royale, and Monopoly Go create trust before the purchase moment. Then, I will give you a 5-minute audit that you can run before touching the prices again. But before we get into it, let's understand where the real leak is. A player can see your store and still not be ready to buy. Picture this first session. The player gets coins, gems, a chest, a logging bonus, a starter pack, and a glowing shop icon. The team thinks we are showing value. The player thinks, what is this for? That gap kills monetization. Rewards do not matter until the player knows what they unlock. Currency does not matter until the player knows what it is for. A starter pack needs a goal behind it. This is what most developers miss. The data makes it look like a store problem. Low first purchase rate, weak conversion, short sessions, poor demonetization. So what does the team do? They change the store. But the leak happened before the store. The player left because the game did not create enough clarity, progress, or desire before the price appeared. All this should have led to a good purchase moment. So let's look at one of the highest grossing games to see how they built to it. So what does a good purchase moment look like? Candy Crush is a clean example because the need is obvious. The early game is easy to read. Match candies, clear the goal, move along the map. All this allows the player to learn the board before the game asks for money. Then the game creates a sharp moment. You're one move away, one jelly left, and then you run out of moves. Now the extra moves offer makes sense. Not because the offer is genius, because the player already felt the problem. And this practice is not only limited to the extra moves offered. Boosters work because the board is clear. Extra moves work because the player knows that they are close. Lives matter because the map gives them a reason to continue. The principle is simple. The purchase should solve a problem that the player already understands. If your first offer appears before that moment, the player is not thinking good value. They are thinking, why should I buy this? Let's find out the answers to how we can do this. This brings us to the main model. I call it the Pre-Monetization Trust Ladder. Trust is the keyword. Before spending feels natural, the player needs 4 things. First, clarity. They need to understand what they are doing. Second, value. They should feel progress from their actions. Third, desire. They should want something next. Fourth, friction, useful friction. They hit a problem that matters enough to solve for them. Weak early monetization skips the ladder. It shows friction before desire, it gives rewards before value, it asks for money before clarity. This is the most important part. Monetization does not start at the shop, it starts in the first few minutes when the player decides whether your game is worth trusting. Now let's test that ladder against Clash Royale. Clash Royale starts with a readable battle. Place troops, attack towers, defend your side. The goal is clear fast within the first few minutes. Then the match connects to chest, cards, upgrades, and the arena ladder. The chest is future deck power. A card upgrade changes cards the player has already used in the battle. All these create value. Then the player wants better cards, stronger decks, higher arena, and cleaner wins. These create desire. Only then do timers and resource limits become useful friction. Waiting for a chest matters because the player knows what it can give. Needing more cards matter because the player wants that card stronger. So friction is not the enemy. Bad friction appears before the player has even started to care. Good friction appears only after the player understands what is being delayed and he wants it now. If your game throws an energy gate, upgrade wall, timer, or purchase prompt at a player before they care, that is not monetization pressure. That is a quit button with a nicer UI. Same idea gets bigger in Monopoly Go. The first action is simple. Roll the dice, move around the board, collect rewards. But every roll connects to other systems. Systems like board completion, landmark upgrades, sticker albums, events, shields, raids, social pressure. So the player is finishing the board, protecting progress, choosing an album set, or trying to hit one more milestone. All this creates unfinished business. The action is simple enough to understand quickly. The surrounding systems create many reasons to want more roles. That is why extra dice can monetize. The player can see what more dice might help finish in the loop. The lesson is not copy Monopoly Go. The lesson is keep the first action simple, then attach it to visible future goals. Depth only helps if the player can see why it matters. Otherwise, it's just confusion. How do you apply this to your game? Here is a simple framework for you to work on. First, prove clarity. After 5 minutes, can the player explain the next goal in one sentence? If not, do not ask them to buy yet. Second, prove value. Does the first reward clearly change something? A Clash Royale card upgrade matters because the player has used the card. A random pile of coin means nothing if the player does not know what coins do. Third, create desire. At the end of the first session, what does the player want next? A stronger deck, a finished board, a character, a cosmetic? If there is no "I want that" feeling from the player, there is no buy yet. Fourth, time the friction. Do not block, delay, punish, or sell too early. Candy Crush can sell extra moves because the player knows that they were close. Fifth, match the offer to the need the player is experiencing right then. For every early offer, write the sentence from the player's point of view. I want this because. If you cannot finish the sentence, the offer is too early, too vague, or solving the wrong problem. Now let's turn this into something you can use today. Watch one new player play your game for 5 minutes without helping them. At the 5-minute mark, ask 3 questions. What are you trying to do next? What rewards matter most right now? And why would you ever spend money here? Then stay quiet. Do not explain your design. Do not defend the tutorial. Do not tell them what they missed. If they mention confusion, random currencies, pop-ups, or just say, I don't know, your store is not the first fix. If they can name a goal, name a reward, and explain how a booster or upgrade would help, then and only then your monetization has a foundation. This changes how you read your metrics. Low conversion may not mean a bad offer. It may mean the player never became ready for the offer. So the takeaway is simple. Players spend when the game creates clarity, value, desire, and useful friction before it asks for money. That is how you improve D1 retention, session depth, and first purchase conversion without adding noise. That is all I have for you today. Subscribe if you want practical breakdowns on retention, monetization, and game systems that help you build games that players return to and pay for. Remember, the goal is not to push players harder. The goal is to build a game that earns the right to ask. See you soon in the next video. Take care.